What is going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Forward Thinking Founders. I am very grateful to have your attention, at least for the next 15 minutes of this episode. Forward Thinking Founders is a podcast where I interview pre-seed and seed stage founders about their products, what they want to build into the world, and why. We dive into how they spend their time, what's their vision, what's their origin stories, all these things, so you can learn all about what's coming tomorrow. Because these companies haven't hit critical scale yet. Most of them haven't hit product market fit. These are just early stage companies, and the big question is, what can this be? And in this podcast, we bring that out. So with that, I really hope you enjoy your time listening to today's episode. And I've already done 200 plus, so if you like this one, listen to some of the other ones, like with Imadi Kund, Austin Allred, Leah Culver. We have great interviews, so check it out, enjoy the repository, and for now, let's get into today's episode. Here we go. All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Forward Thinking Founders, where we talk to founders about their companies, their visions for the future, and how the two collide. Today, I'm very excited to be talking to Neel Ganu, who's a co-founder of Finch. Welcome to the show. How's it going?
Thanks, Matt. Really good. Great to be here, and super excited to chat to you from seeing all of your podcasts with really interesting founders. I'm grateful to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have you as one of them. Number, somewhere in between whenever I publish this 760, 770. But like, what's crazy is that, these days, like every day, like 3 or 4 founders announce like that they fundraised from episode like 200 to 300, which means, hopefully it's a good sign. So my question for you to get this started is, for people that haven't heard of your company, what are you working on? What is Finch?
Yeah, happy to tell you more. I'm Neel. I'm co-founder of Finch. Finch helps you make the most of your idle cash so you can live your best life. Look, the problem that we're solving is people leave way too much money just sitting idle in a checking and savings accounts. Look, as a millennial, millennials are holding on average 65% of their assets just sitting in cash, doing nothing. This is way higher than any other generation, and amounts trillions of dollars. It's fantastic news for banks. But we miss out on the benefits of compound interest, and over time, personally, this could be hundreds of thousands of dollars for every single person. So really, really big problem. And even in, it's 2021, there's a whole bunch of tools out there, but putting your money to work is still incredibly hard. You need to manage multiple accounts. You need to know what you want to invest in, think about your risk, think about your trades, think about times. I mean, these steps are just overwhelming, and what they do is they keep people underinvested. So what we wanted to do is create a really simple way to help people through this problem, and that's why we created Finch. So Finch is designed to be a hyper-productive account that really helps you make the most of your idle cash. And the way we do it, the way it works is we combine the benefits of auto investing and the flexibility of checking into a seamless all-in-one account.
So walk me through a little bit about kind of the origin story here. Like, why did you decide to get started with this, and kind of, tell me about the early days.
Yeah, early days. Look, might help starting with my background and just a little bit more about me and the path that's led me here. But you can probably tell from my accent, I'm Australian. I got started. Just look, I was obsessed with figuring out how things work and putting them back together in different ways. Totally obsessed with Lego because of that. I probably still am. But I was working for really big banks all across Asia, straight after the financial crisis, and look, realize that banks have been built the exact same way for about 500 years. Not a lot has changed. 2016, ended up moving to the States, ended up moving to Boston to go to business school, went to Sloan, and just tripled down on fintech. Like I love fintech. I wanted to learn more about it. Ended up being the first employee at a company called N26, which is a challenger bank, if you're not familiar, one of the 2 biggest European challenger banks. But it was awesome. I mean, our job was, hey, go start a bank in New York, and that's exactly what we did. So learned how to do that. From there, tried to buy my own community bank, and realized from a regulation and capital standpoint, not the path that I want to go down to make the change that I want to see in the world. And then I was invited to write about it at HBS. So about core banking systems and how everything plugs together. But the real kind of light that went off is when my co-founder and I, Maya, we were talking about this, was that banks are being built to benefit banks. How can we actually create an institution to benefit consumers? And that was really the origin story. I mean, banks take money from us, they lend it out to other people, they charge them interest, they keep it, pay back very little. We flip that offering, we take deposits from customers, we invest it for you, we pay back returns to you, and we make it liquid along the way.
And tell me, like, kind of as you work on Finch, when you wake up every morning, what do you spend your time on? Like, I mean, like other today, I know that you blocked out 20 minutes for a podcast, but outside of that, like, what are you focusing on the day to day as you work on this company?
Yeah, so look, we have a remote team, so definitely interesting. There's three of us that are in New York, six of us that are spread across the states, and 17 worldwide. So definitely it is challenging with times, but days usually start checking in with the engineering team, joining our development stand-ups. Working through product issues. We're fundraising at the moment, so going through investor calls, and really just triaging different opportunities as they come through. The thing that makes the biggest difference for me in the morning is really just to figure out, hey, what are the three top things I need to do for the day, just to make sure that I am working on the most important things. But yeah, it's more recently, it's usually been a mix between product, between fundraising, and between team.
And as you work on a company, I feel like there's this quote that is, starting a startup is the ultimate form of like self-development or something like that, like your personal development in that realm. So so which means like you have a lot of learning that comes from starting a startup, right? So I'm curious for you, what have you learned since you've gotten started on Finch, whether it's about market, about yourself, about, building, marketing plan, how have you learned so far?
So funny you asked that question. About a month ago, I actually went back to business school as a guest this time to talk about Finch, and professor asked me the question. It's like, hey, did business school set you up for running a startup, right? And the first thing that immediately came to my head is I think I learned more in the 1 week that I was actually building a company, and working on that. You know, outside in the real world versus as a spectator in the classroom. But look, tons of self-development from a standpoint from actually recognizing where my strengths are, where my weaknesses are. For me, it's been started working solely, either by myself or with my co-founder, and that's expanded. So things have definitely changed their communication, how things are delegated. You don't have time to do everything that you want to do in the day. So it's being really careful about that. Other elements, I mean, yes, there's technical learnings with the industry that we're working in, but it's really people, right? Like how to build, engage, motivate your team. Everyone's not with you all the time. How do you make sure that they're happy, they're doing great, they're actually putting out the best that they could be, and just keeping on refining it. I mean, the biggest thing here is if you realize that you know everything, I think you're so far beyond. I think every single day you realize just how much you don't know, and it's just you hear about this like continuous learning journey, and it is absolutely that. There's always something new to learn. There's always a different way to do things, and the one thing that shines through, and my co-founder is Maya. She's incredible at this, which is there is no such thing as being over prepared, right? So when you look at you mentioned it earlier, right? You said you see founders having funding announcements and different successes online. It's the thing that's hidden in that. And congratulations on the success. It's awesome. You never see the hard work and dedication that goes into that. And there is always a next level of dedication, which I think is really powerful.
Totally. I cannot agree more with that. What happens behind the scenes is never seen because it's behind the scenes. I'm curious for you though, I mean, you're putting in obviously a lot of work behind the scenes for Finch, and hopefully in 5, 10, 15 years, it kind of leads to like a very, large, substantial company. So my question for you is, in a decade or two, what does Finch look like? Or in other words, what's the big vision here and what direction are you rowing in with the company?
Look, our big vision is to close the generational wealth gap, and we're starting with millennials. The way we look at it is, there's so many tools out there. There's so many different ways that people can start thinking about their money, managing their money. A lot of this comes down to behavior. A lot of this comes down to education. And if we rewind back to what's got us to the situation, most people's kind of financial education and learnings comes from the people that are around them, their friends, their parents. Now, if you're fortunate enough to get this at an early age, that's awesome. It sets you up for success. But not everyone is that lucky, right? So how do we set up a system where we can actually help people all along the way, so that these systemic problems actually don't exist, and for everyone it actually gives them a pathway out, that hey, like, this is what you can do to actually get that freedom. It's not the fact that money buys you things and experiences. It just gives you that freedom to do whatever you want, right? So that, closing generational wealth gap, how does that look from a company standpoint? I mean, today we're starting with that everyday account experience. One of the biggest things that we see is around financial advice. Like, how do you deliver financial advice at a mass scale? How to do that effectively? And we definitely want to be a party that does that and really helps people along the way. And look, we see this. We have a huge kind of social following, and the way that they engage with us is incredible, right? And people are asking questions, they're asking openly. What we're increasingly finding now is that most financial advice that's given today is actually given from a point where they make you feel bad about it. They make you feel bad about asking about it, and we absolutely want to turn the tables on that. You don't need to feel that way. And we want to give that non-judgmental help. But closing the generational wealth gap and building a financial institution to cater to those needs is exactly what we want to do.
And in order to make that happen, you'll need some help, right? I mean, it takes a village to make a startup work. So my question for you is, how can the
100%.
forward-thinking founders community help? Are you hiring? Are you raising capital, looking for customers, people to partner with? How can we assist?
Look, from the community, what I would love is we are live on the App Store. We have our beta that is out there, iOS only for now. But if you do have a iOS device, feel free to check us out, finchmoney.com, or it's just Finch on the App Store. Any feedback, any advice, any way that we can really get our product closer, product market fit, and evolve that. We've got some super exciting things around the corners, but firsthand experience would be the absolute best to us as the community.
And then just to make sure we cover all the links, if someone wanted to learn more and find you on the internet, where can everyone find you? What's the URL again? Do you have social media, email, TikTok? Where can people kind of find you on the internet?
Yeah, so just URL's best spot is finchmoney.com. And that's the same handle for most of our Instagram, our LinkedIn, our Facebook channels as well. On TikTok, it's actually under my co-founder's name, and she runs a personal finance channel, which is growing. So that's my NH Oven. I'll drop you the links. I'm sure they'll be included in the blog.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Matt, thank you so much for having me. And, I feel privileged to be part of this community, and I'm excited to see the community that you're building around this podcast as well. So
Excited to have you in it.